are getting close.
Are you holding my camera properly? Swerve, girl.
Stop, both of you!
Yours will surely come.
Hi, Mom.
My parents asked if their grandchildren could visit them for a week.
Here we are.
This is where our mom grew up. I've wanted to spend time with you for so long.
Miss you guys!
Mom, we're having a great time.
I have not seen your Nana this happy in years. Bedtime here is 9:30. It's probably best you two shouldn't come out of your room after that. See you in the morning.
9:30?
9:30.
What is that? It's 10:47.
We think there's someone outside the door. What the hell was that? I think Nana's not feeling well.
Grandmother's fine. It's like somebody talking in their sleep.
What's he doing? They're weird during the day.
I was just cleaning it.
And even weirder at night?
Mom, there's something wrong with Nana and Papa.
They're just old. Bear with it for a couple of days.
Nana, you okay?
They're hiding something.
It's just the end of your trip.
I'm sad it's all over. I'm gonna get you.
Let's make it a perfect night.
What is that? Mom, you need to come right now.
Would you mind getting inside the oven to clean it?
Stop! Nana, stop!
Holy shit. Now that we're all thoroughly creeped out, please give a warm Nerd HQ welcome to M. Night Shyamalan and Jason Blum. Come on out here, boys. Come on out here. Keep it going with these guys. Some creepy Hansel and Gretel shit right there. Get in the oven. Hey, everybody. So as I explained to these guys backstage, and as you all know, this is your time. You get to ask them whatever you want, like what it's like to be cooked in an oven. Who's got a question? Just go ahead and raise your hands, and they'll call on you. Go for it.
With the hat.
Thank you. A lot of the movies are really thriller, exciting, catching. What inspires you to do these types of movies and do them so well?
Oh, thank you, by the way. I have kind of, there's a thing in that I've kind of talked when I talk to aspiring filmmakers and things is kind of the process of going inside out instead of outside in. So like outside in would be almost kind of like the traditional Hollywood thinking of like, oh, we have XYZ star and we have a slot. Okay, let's think of a story, or like we want to make a movie with this person in this genre. That's kind of starting already outside. Now is there some story we want to tell? And for me, as a creator, kind of going the other way is always the most meaningful. So like, Inside Out would be like, so for example, like in Sixth Sense, how that started was me having an image of a kid talking to someone at a funeral on the stairs, but there's nobody there. And so there was something meaningful about it. That scene's not in the movie, obviously, but I was really interested in that character and why is he talking, who is he talking to? Is it the person that died at that funeral? And me asking those questions. And then for me, as a creator, plot coming from character is the right movement. So for example, in the same movie, thinking out, Inside Out, it was, oh, he's a therapist with this kid. He's talking about, what's this, the therapist, where is it, what's his issue? Oh, he has a marital problem. I was like, okay, his wife doesn't talk to him. Why isn't she talking to him? Why isn't she talking to him? Oh my God, it's because he's not there. And so it comes from character, right? Rather than me going, I want to do something crazy that blows, it's really from the character of he's having trouble with it in his mind, having trouble with his marriage, and she just as if he's not there. And then I was like, well, what if he's not there? And so those are the kind of really organic things. That's how, and so you feel peace when it comes that way. When you're artificially for me, when I'm artificially thinking, I don't trust it. When I try to be calculated, it's just for me, I'm not good at that. Thank you.
Jason, anything to add?
The question was to you, wasn't it? What was the question exactly? I'm lost now.
Thrillers and
what inspires me?
I want to know that one.
What inspires me, I think, is trying to do things differently, and I feel like that's what The Visit is. That's what we aspire to do on everything that we do, whether it's a TV show or a haunted house or a book or a movie, is that we try and be different and try and be try new things. I think in terms of what Knight was just referring to, I think Hollywood really has a tendency to say, well, these things were successful, so let's do things like this. And I try and really do the opposite. And I try and encourage the people at the company to think differently, which is, these things were successful. That's great for them. Let's try something else. So I think being different is what inspires me.
Yep. There you go.
This is for both of you. What are your favorite horror movies?
Oh, that's good. Do you want to go first?
No, you go first.
Definitely.
I'm scared.
Well, there's The Exorcist up here. That's like the top. That's the top.
The Exorcist is the top?
The top.
Really?
Yeah, for me.
Just always The Exorcist? Because I sometimes have different answers to that question depending on which one is in my brain. Yeah, but The Exorcist, just the canon.
Yeah, I mean, there's the canon of like the classics, The Exorcist,
Exorcist
The Omen.
over The Shining.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, The Exorcist.
I am not there.
Psycho.
Psycho for me is way up there.
Psycho.
Yeah. Shining for me.
The Haunting, Robert Wise, The Haunting. Yep. Robert Wise fan over there. I was at some awards thing, and this young lady came up to me and said, "Oh, my dad wants to meet you. Did you come over and meet him?" I'm like, "Okay, sure." And I get up out of the thing and I come over, and she's like, "This is my dad, Robert Wise." And I was like, "Huh?" It's like, dude, I've been totally stealing from you my whole life. This is fantastic. Yeah, those are my Jaws, if you consider that, a horror movie.
For me, I think The Shining.
Alien, if you consider that a horror movie.
Of course.
So most of your movies are all horror, though. So, is there a reason that you've chosen to go down the horror path mainly, or something happened as a child or something?
Wait, is that me or him?
Yeah, I think that's applicable to both.
There was this bully, and no. I actually don't think of my movies as that one. That one.
Every time I say horror, I get scolded by him.
Yeah.
So I have to say thriller, which I love thriller. So I'm not allowed to say it. So that's why I had to say who was that question for. Yeah. Knight makes thrillers. We tend more to make horror movies. This movie is a thriller.
There you go. See, he's learned well. This is definitely the scariest movie. Its intent is, to laugh and to be scared and scream in the theater and that kind of a verbal kind of reaction. But for me, I think a little bit of it that misnomer has strangled me a little bit. I like the tonalities of dark and scary, and I don't want that flavor necessarily all the time in the movie. So say for example like The Village, which is essentially a romance, but has elements of darkness. That 20% of darkness seems to either be, throw the evaluation off. Do you know what I mean? And I like mixing genres. I guess that's my favorite thing to do is mix genres. And I know that makes it a little difficult when we get to getting it to the audience because it's hard to represent multiple genres in a campaign.
It's hard to market mixed genres, which is what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I really enjoy what tension does and suspense does for storytelling. You know, if the more you care about the characters, the more when I put them in jeopardy, you feel a visceral reaction. There's something about why we go on this roller coaster ride of things that are scary that it wakes you up. You know, it's very visceral, and your adrenaline's going. We're activating that flight or fight, you know, mode in the theater, but in a safe way. You know. And so I do like to mix the genres. I don't know. I've always been mischievous as a kid. I do like as a kid I would always do Ouija. I do the Ouija board. By the way, thanks for asking me to do that movie.
Sequel. Ouija 2.
And so I do the Ouija board, and I'd have it all set up to. We'd pick a cousin that we were gonna torture, and then I would say, guys, don't fuck around, okay? This is serious. And then we do the thing. Is there a spirit here? Yes. Oh shit. And then I'd be like, is there someone here that you don't like? And they would go, yes. And then I was like, oh my God. And then, is there someone here you want to harm? Yes. And then I was like, who is it? And then would just whip over to my cousin that we've all pre-determined, and he'd get all like teary-eyed. I'd be like, I'm not doing it, dude. And he'd start tearing up. And usually, even the more cruel about it, I'd get the fresh off the boat Indian cousin that just came over, who's totally believing everything. And they'd be crying, and then he's like, let's tell the adults, let's tell the adults. And I'm like, no, let's not do that. Let's not go there. I think we can handle this ourselves.
That is super fucked up.
One of my cousin, who's now a dermatologist in Detroit, when she was a little kid, we'd all sleep in the room together, like on the couches and I got under the cushion of the couches with a doll, and after like 20 minutes, first of all, how demented are you to just sit quietly under a cushion, like a Navy SEAL, like. And then the doll comes up, and I'm like, come play with me, come play with me. She, to this day, is like traumatized by that, and she just made this like primal. So it's something about that.
I mean, how do I compete with that? Jesus. I like the normal things that the normal things I like to be scared. I love our haunted houses. I like the normal things that people associate with scary movies, and the normal answers you hear. But the other thing that I really love about horror in particular, and I was late to horror. I wasn't like Tarantino or Eli, who were like seen every horror movie backwards and forwards and can tell you what the outtakes are. I don't have that kind of encyclopedic knowledge of any genre, but definitely not horror. But I've learned a ton about it. I've learned about it from all the great people that we worked with, from James Wan, from Lee Wanell, from Scott Derrickson. I learned about thrillers from Night. And I love the community around horror. I think if people say, why'd you guys do Gem and the Holograms? And Gem and the Holograms, although not a horror movie, is really about what I was talking about before, about being different. And like, it's okay to be different and be weird. I am many things, but one thing most of all, very weird. And I love that. And I think that works. As a fan, I love it. I love horror fans. And I also love as a creator, the horror community really sticks together in a way that isn't true of other genres in movies, I don't think. And we all watch each other's movies and say, this works, this is terrible, whatever. And there's a real sense of community around horror, and that's one of my favorite things about it.
Here, you hold this. I need 2 hands to talk. Okay. Thank you very much for being here. You had talked earlier about Hollywood grabbing onto successful things and kind of Hollywoodizing them, so to speak. Where do you see maybe the future going of subgenres and mashups that are coming down that don't have that attention yet? Where do you see the future of that kind of going?
I think that was to you.
Well, I don't know, I guess, and I always think of, when I think about that, I always think of like, who's the next you know, Oren Peli, right, who just does this movie about 20 minutes away from here and has never met anyone in the movie business and locks himself in his house and comes up with Paranormal Activity. And that there are 4 more of those people out there somewhere. And I hope I'm lucky enough to get to meet them again, you know, and get to see what they do. But I'm a producer, curator. I have no aspirations to write or direct. I would be terrible at it. I feel like one of the things that there are plenty of things I'm not good at, but one of the things that makes me good at my job is the fact that I'm not a frustrated writer-director, but I'm always looking for the next one. But who knows? It's going to be something that no one anticipates, just like Paranormal Activity. It's going to be something that no one's thought of, no one's anticipated, and it's definitely out there, and I hope we find it.
Can we get a mic right down here? You could borrow mine, honestly. I'm not really using it that much.
Just going off the trailer, I assume it's mostly found footage, if not all found footage. Was that a different approach for you in terms of, you know, how to stage shots and things like that?
Yeah. You know, I storyboard everything on my thrillers, and it was very natural to kind of choreograph the shots very carefully. For me, there's a distinction. For me, maybe it's semantics, but for me, the difference between it being a documentary and being found footage is significant. And why that is in the movie is kind of in a documentary approach is because there's creative intent from the character that's shooting it, and so there's a cinema to it and a beauty to it that's there. And found footage has a by its nature a sense of you used the word haphazard, right?
Yeah, you're being modest. I think that for me, we obviously do a lot of found footage movies, and to me, this movie is really, it's more a mock doc than it's not a found footage movie. Found footage movies are the big principle behind found footage is you're capturing this, your daughter's birthday, right? But in the background, you get this, which is a ghost or something. Because obviously, if you're actually filming the ghost, then it's not found footage anymore because you know the ghost is there. And that's a real difficult thing about making found footage movies. This is why I would call it a mock doc or a documentary or a fake documentary, is the shots are composed and beautiful, and you can tell that not that there's not a real filmmaker behind found footage, but that there's a filmmaker thinking about aesthetic and the shot and the way it's set up. To make a found footage movie, you actually have to not think about that, because it's supposed to be you caught it by accident. And this movie is extremely deliberate and really striking to look at, and totally different from the found footage movies that we've worked on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny. When we were making the movie and we screened it for audiences and stuff, I never saw one comment or anything about it being a footage movie, because you forget that. That should be the intent. It's not on your mind as you're watching The Visit. It's really, again, to the point we talked about, it's an extension of the character. The teenage girl is an aspiring filmmaker and has a love of cinema. And so it was natural to come out of that. It's her character, how she sees the world, how she sees her family, the beauty of how she sees things, and she has a beautiful eye and she has a beautiful heart. So the movie has that as a center, and as it goes awry, it's disturbing to her because she's always tacking it back to something beautiful, because that's how she sees the world, and the subject matter just keeps yanking her away from it.
But it helps that it really helps motivate the camera. One of the biggest, hardest things in found footage is motivating the camera. Why are you filming? And the fact that the lead in this movie is trying to make something beautiful, and a filmmaker really helps with that big question, which we struggle with all the time on found footage movies.
You know, one of the things that was one of my dreams always was to make a movie with no score. The Birds has no score. Birds, by the way, The Birds. Yeah.
Just adding to the list. Just a long list.
Score. And The Exorcist has about 45 seconds of music. We think it's covered in that chimes music, but I mean that Tubular Bells thing, but it's just a little bit. And what happens, you know, for me, my aspiration in my movies has always been, we're not putting any score in this movie, and then James Newton Howard writes something amazing, and I'm like, okay, we'll put that in, and then he writes another one, and another one, and then I'm like, you know, and then there's 80 minutes of music in there, and I'm like, God damn it, cocaine, it's like cocaine. This one, by its nature, I was like, well, there can't be any score in this movie, and it really keeps you. You know, hopefully you guys will see it. By the way, are these guys invited to the screening? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, everybody.
I guess that's a yes.
Yes.
They don't tell me much, right?
Yeah, you're not invited.
I'm not invited.
Correct. Everybody else.
I'm not invited.
But you know, there's an intensity of watching The Visit that cannot be achieved with score. Like for example, like score will get you kind of I don't want to say artificially, but with help up to a certain intensity, right? And it's so high you can get with score, right, in these movies. But if you can manage to get there on your own, you can actually puncture that ceiling, that glass ceiling. And when you see The Visit, there's like such an intensity. People don't know why they're feeling so intensely. It's because I'm not telling you that you're okay. I'm not telling you you're safe. At any moment, it could be good, bad, and the movie's tonalities are keeping you off kilter. And then it gets into like this dizzying score, and sound effects for me is the score. So it's a different way to get you like how the creak of this. I mean, we spent forever thinking about how to do the creak of this and that, and so for me, like when I was doing this movie, one of the people that I needed badly was one of the best, you know, sound designers in the world, and so, you know, we went and got the guy who just won the Academy Award for Gravity, and for me, that's the star of the movie. Like, you know, as a filmmaker, I knew how we were gonna need to tell the story, and so that this gives me the opportunity to do that. This kind of quiet, so very, very exciting, feeling for me to make a movie like this. It's very unusual. So, thank you.
Superman.
For someone who's just still starting out in theater and plays and things like that,
yeah.
I've always wanted to get in short films. I've seen that people like doing horror or thrillers for their first films on YouTube and things like that. What would you tell someone who's still trying to start out for something like that?
Well, the first thing I'd say is don't do it. That's exactly what Knight was saying about inside and outside. Don't think what genre should I do. It's what do I love. That's what you should do. If you love comedy, do comedy. You love drama, do drama. If you love horror, do horror. But don't try and think about it like from your own place first, as opposed to what you should do. That's the first thing that I would say.
Yeah, and you know, and it can sound a little kumbaya, you know what he's saying, you know, like be true to yourself. But it's actually, that is the sword that you yield. I'll tell you something. I just thought of this when you asked. I may be going off on a tangent, but I do a lot of stuff in education reform, and I wrote a book on education reform. And one of the things I got to do one day was I got to teach. They asked me to come and teach at an inner city school in Philly, just some English thing. And I went in there and it was really, you know, tough school. And I walk in and like some of the kids knew who I was and the other kids didn't. And there was, you know, like this like, you know, apathy, right? And they were all like this, you know? And I went, it was quiet for a second and I'm like, huh. And I went, at the time this was true, I said, word for word, I'm the highest paid writer in the entire world. And then their heads looked up. And then they sat up and I said, I know no one in Hollywood. No one in my family's in Hollywood. How did this happen? Guesses? And the kids were like, hard work? I'm like, yeah, but people work harder than me. And they were like, talent? I'm like, yeah, you know, I got some, but, you know, I'm sure there's many, many more talented people than me. They're like, luck? I'm like, that definitely has something to do with it. And I said, I believe, I've thought about this a lot, this is what I was telling the kids. I was like, I believe I am more me than other people are them, if that makes sense. Everything, hubris, flaws, everything, just being honest about who I am, not being agenda-driven, by just saying, this is who I am. I'm totally sentimental. I love to fuck with people. Everything, you know, I'm that guy. I'm a mixture of all these weird contradictions, and I put that on the page, and it pops. So when, from 3,000 miles away, they read a screenplay of mine or see, it's salient because their voice, and there was a girl in the front, and she was this, overweight girl that was kind of ostracized from the group, and I was like, if you write what it's like to have that look in your eye that you have right now, just write that look. Don't try to be Quentin, don't try to be me, don't try to do anything like that. Tell me what it's like to sit in that seat and hear that speaker where the principal is talking and you can't hear him because the fucking speaker's broken. And they don't care that you can't understand it. That, and teachers in the back were like this, and I was like, that right there, why do you have that look in your eye and sitting in that seat that way? Why are you not connecting to this? You could put on the page that story, the whole world will listen. And it's really, that's the thing, dude. Don't try to be anything. There's something about you that's so specific and wonderful. Everyone has this particular voice, and the more you can tell us your particular path, the more powerful you're going to be. The more you dilute it with, I think they want, that's outside in.
And yeah, I agree. And not to overemphasize the point, but I remember being like in your position, asking that question and hearing a much less articulate version of what Knight just said, and thinking, well, it's easy for those guys to say. And that is true, that when you really reach a certain level of success, it's easier to listen to yourself. But you can't. But so it's much harder to do when you're starting out. But I really would just emphasize the same thing and can't say it enough, that if you can really shut out the noise and listen to your own voice of what drives you, that's really it's the most important thing I think you can do as the beginning when you start out your career as an artist.
Yeah, I think The Visit was actually unconsciously that for me, this idea of going and making a small movie away from everything and taking all safety nets away. No guarantees of any kind on this one. And the only way out, the only door out of this is this thing we're talking about. Just make something singular that where I am at this moment, it won't be valid. I could not tell this story again 2 years from now or 2 years earlier, where I am at this moment. And that, keep coming back. Stop trying to protect yourself. Stop trying to think. Stop trying to calculate. Just go right there. And it comes out super funny. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be... Stop thinking like that. Don't think is this going to be confusing? Just do it. Oh, my God, this is incredibly gross. No, don't think like that. Just, that's what it wanted. That's what it wanted. They'll never let And then your editor keeps... In your head, your editor keeps going, you can't do what... Again, hopefully you guys will come see it. You can't do what we did to these kids in a movie. You can't do it. No, stop thinking like that, Oh, is this going to be too weird? Don't think like that, constantly down. What is driving me? Who are these characters, And when I close my eyes and I'm like, now I was just thinking, I'm writing a new movie, and I did this the other day. I was like, I'm going to close my eyes and think about what's the greatest outcome for this new movie, the one we're talking about. And I was like, what's the bit? And it's not money or success. It was like that I love these characters, that I've fleshed them out just that 5% more, that they became more real. And that's the truth when you do that. If you do that, everything's gonna work out, dude. Everything is gonna work out. And it may not work out exactly like what you're thinking.
It won't work out like you're thinking.
Yeah, but it will work out. That's a powerful antenna that keeps on going. For me, my favorite film of last year was his film, Whiplash. And it was the second lowest seen Academy nominated movie of all time.
Yeah, it was financially, the movie was totally did terribly. It did terribly. But that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to work out for everyone involved in a myriad of ways they couldn't have imagined. It was done so purely. I totally believe in that. I mean, look, in entertainment...
Just to clarify that, it did terribly, oddly, it did terribly relative to how it should have done, or the awards that it got in the United States. Internationally, it did spectacularly well, which is like in Korea, it broke all sorts of records. So actually, internationally, it did amazingly well, and just domestically, it didn't do well at all.
I didn't know that.
I know, very odd. I know. There's a bigger story there.
Korea loves drums, bro.
There you go.
They love drums.
Anywhere, yeah, anywhere.
So I read a quote by David Cronenberg where he said horror is the only genre that doesn't ask to be liked, doesn't need to be loved. And yet I have rewound the Brazilian TV footage of the alien on signs over and over and over because I want to see if it still scares me every time, and it does. Why do I keep going back to a negative experience? Because I do love it.
That might be more for your therapist.
Yeah, dude, you're just fucked up. That's a bad sign. That's a very bad sign. No, thank you. That's very sweet. Actually, that's funny you mentioned that because that's probably the first time I did a footage thing in a movie, right? A lot of people actually say, yeah, that's like one of their favorite footage moments in a horror movie or something like that. For me, the thrill, why I always tend towards thrill, because that's the thing that you're feeling, that activation of, for me, I'm probably, again, going to go off on a tangent here, so just raise your hand and be like, shut up. But this thing you're talking about is, for me, a way of activating. There's all forms of content now, right, in any form, and most of it, from my point of view, is passive content, where I don't need to be active in the storytelling. So I can be, other people, I don't do that, but, you're constantly on different devices and you look up, oh, the wife and the husband are fighting. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, he's leaving. Oh, he's having an affair with his secretary. It's like that. You're passive, whereas if you do a scene where I'm not telling you if they're good or bad, you have to be active in the storytelling. For me, that's my favorite part of it, at making you active. And to something about the thriller of it all, it makes it starts to make you active, because I guess your tendency is to protect yourself from feeling this fear, and yet you're inexplicably drawn to the door to open, and what's gonna happen? Why is she so stupid to open that door? She shouldn't open that door. She shouldn't open that door. Oh my God. And it's also, I think now I'm just talking off the top of my head, is our goal as filmmakers, and at least for me, is to make the audience feel one-to-one with the character. And that synchronicity that happens is so beautiful in thrillers and horrors that, we're supposed to be alone in the house, and you hear something, that kind of thing. I always use this example. I'll probably make a movie about it one day, but I just use it as an example of storytelling, where a guy's at his desk, and he's writing something, and he notices a picture of his wife is face down. He's like, huh. Puts it up, and then goes and gets a cup of coffee, comes down, the picture of the wife's face down again. And like immediately that's just a scene, but you're one-to-one with the character right now, right? I have you. You're thinking and feeling exactly what he's feeling, and that's fantastic. And maybe that's part of the visceral nature of it, is that you're one-to-one with thrillers and horrors, and that's a symbiotic relationship we strive for.
I love that you're literally taking notes. This gentleman is taking notes on the answer that he just got right now.
That's good.
That is fantastic. That's some good question
Everybody
asking.
should be doing
They
that.
should be. And by the way, if you need to go back and watch the footage, you can. It'll be archived on YouTube in case you missed anything. You can go back.
All the way in the back. Yeah. No, you pointed to your head.
Yeah.
What's the scariest horror movie you've ever seen?
Oh,
we just answered that.
No, the
Did you
Scariest,
comment?
that's
Oh, the
different.
Scariest. Sorry, not our favorite. The Scariest. All right.
Yeah.
Well, to me, that is, you can't ask that out of context, because for me, the context is when I saw, the most scared I ever was watching a horror movie was I was way too young to watch Friday the 13th. And it was on, I was at my cousin's, I'll remember forever, I was in Beverly Wood in Los Angeles, and I was at there were my cousins, and everyone was out, and it was like beginning of cable TV or whatever, it was on, I don't know what it was, on HBO or something. And I saw Friday the 13th, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a terrible experience. I was too frightened, and it was by far the most frightened I've ever been watching a horror movie.
It's funny. I had two thoughts came to mind. Two moments came to mind. One was just that same kind of thing, but with The Exorcist, and again on HBO. HBO, I guess, has ruined a lot of kids.
HBO destroying children.
But yeah, and my uncle and aunt had this thing called HBO, and it was so like in early days, and The Exorcist was on, and I just saw part of it, and I literally slept with my parents for like a month.
Yeah, I didn't make it through
and
the
I
whole
just
thing.
didn't leave the room. And then the other one, strangely, it was I don't even know if I told you this. So I was, looking for directors for the Night Chronicles stuff, and they submitted a movie to me, and they said, "Oh, this movie hasn't been picked up yet." And they said, "Just take a look at this." And it was actually sent to me by someone in my office, and they said, it's not, I don't think it's that scary, but go ahead, take a look at it. And I just moved into this house that we bought, and it's an old estate, and pretty much first week there, and I put this movie in, and me and my family are my cousin's there, and I put it on, and I'm like, this is terrifying. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, I am absolutely scared out of my gourd about what I'm watching here. And then it finished, and I'm like, everybody was like walking together, holding hands through the house, and we slept in groups. And it was the early cut of Paranormal Activity.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
And I was like, this fucking movie is gonna be a phenomenon. and like everyone was like, I swear they hadn't even I don't think even that Paramount had bought it yet. And I was like,
they definitely had not.
Yeah, like an idiot. I just let it go. I was like, that's gonna be a phenomenon, and then I didn't say anything about it. Actually, it was funny. I was with the Paramount guys. I don't know if I had any influence, but they asked me. I said, I saw a movie that you guys just picked up, and I was like, that is going to be a huge, huge hit. And they were like, really? And I'm like, yeah. Dude, I'm like, I felt like I was riveted.
They didn't
but those were kind of, there's a lot of wonderful, scary experiences, but those two really stuck out in my mind as, where I was, as he said, like where I was at the time. There you go, right there.
Hi, I'm an English teacher, and I use your movies to teach to my students. And thank you, by the way, because they're perfect. They follow along everything I teach.
Notice
However,
those are his movies.
No, Whiplash actually was.
Oh,
really
very saved by the bell, saved by Whiplash.
My question, what I would like you to speak about is my students think I'm full of crap when I tell them that you are intentional about using symbols in your movies. They always tell me that I'm wrong. So can you speak to them and tell them that I'm right?
So it's just a validation question, really. That's what's happening.
I'll put it on YouTube. I'll just record. I'll be like, listen to her. Yeah, for me, everything, when you're doing something resonant, everything has a metaphorical quality to it. Like the visit, the Hansel and Gretel. What is a Grimm's fairy tale? What is this? A modern take on the Grimm's fairy tale? What is it about disconnected families that have been estranged, and the gap between them, and what has happened in that time period, and the mystery behind that, and all those things. Like when you watch Visit, that all those things are layered in there. The movie she's making, trying to bring her family together. There's all themes in there. There's a fairy tale, motif through The Visit that you'll see, and it's made fun of, and then strangely becomes valid, and all those things are there. There's musical metaphors and things like that. And I try to use colors. So, for example, in The Visit is, primary colors. The kids are wearing primary colors, and everything else is monotone, very earth tones, and very restricted grays and browns for the whole palette, which is there's a certain kind of darkness hanging over this farm, and when these kids come, they're bringing a life force. And so for me, the primary colors in the movie represent their life force. So you'll see this pop of like a pink jacket that she's wearing against the white of snow as she's standing in a field, the kid, or his wearing a very popped green color, and their life force is here, and it's in jeopardy to some extent. And these are all, metaphoric things. As you're watching the piece. So we do think that, because as you talk with each the key is like the head of the department. So these conversations, that was with the costume person, and then with the production designer, you have all kinds of, same kind of conversations. For example, like a random one that just popped into my mind because it's related to what I just said is Unbreakable, when in the train station, when they bump into David Dunn, and then he has an image of what the sin is, and then they come back to them. When they bump him, they're wearing different clothes than after the bump, and it's the color of their clothes has been heightened. And that was like before you could do it on the computer and just do it in the DI, so we did it physically. Like she's wearing a muted red jacket and then bumps, and then she's wearing a bright red jacket. And he's seeing in that world, in that one, the comic book world, as he starts to see that the real world is actually underneath it. There's a comic book world. The colors start to come out like underneath Elijah's coat, the purple and things like that, that pungent purple, because he believes it already. And as David Dunn starts to feel it, you know, it comes out. And in Unbreakable, another example would be that people are seeing, whenever you look at the world upside down, you start to see the comic book world. So the little girl is looking at David Dunn like this on the train going, you know, if I look at you like this, you look like a superhero, right? And he's just this, you know, down and out guy in the train, you know? And you see that a couple times in the movie in Elijah when he falls down the stairs and he's looking upside down and he sees the silver handle gun from the guy that David Dunn had guessed, and he's like, I fucking knew it, this guy's a superhero. So like there is a ton, you know, a lot of that thought. Most of it is not felt, it's just in, you know, you do it for authenticity. Thank you.
We got, yeah. We got time for one, maybe two more questions if we're super fast.
Hi, this question is for Knight, and I just want to say I love your work.
Thank you so much.
It's phenomenal. Even my mom loves it, and she doesn't like scary things at all.
Oh, thank your mom.
But I was just wondering what TV shows currently, if there are any that are on right now that you really enjoy. We've kind of gotten into scarier movies, my friends and I. So are there any TV shows on now that you really enjoy?
Now, the way you phrased it, was there an implication, the subtext, I'm always about subtext, that TV shows that are scary, is that what you're asking me, or are there two separate things? You just, any TV shows, is that correct? Well, you know, I don't, the interesting thing for me is I don't watch a ton of TV, I read a ton, and I don't watch a ton of TV, so when I watch a TV show, you guys have already vetted it and told me it's amazing. So like, you know, literally, when I tell you the TV shows I've seen, it's like ridiculous, you know? It's like, yes, I've seen The Sopranos, and yes, I've seen, Breaking Bad or Mad Men, and all the classics, you know? It's a fascinating form, you know, for me, as I just did a TV show, 100% the issue for me about TV is the open-endedness of it, you know, to have bone structure and telling a tale with an open forever, that it's going to keep on going, a season this. I mean, I'm in awe that people can do multiple seasons. I get how, like, for example, Breaking Bad, you can do, like, we're going to do this arc over 5 and then finish. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like The Sopranos and all this stuff, you try to keep the integrity. Oh, I love True Detective. So yeah, just like, you know, the classics. Oh, Game of Thrones, of course. It's like the legit way to look at soft porn, so it's good. I'm watching Game of Thrones, honey. This is important.
We got one last question down here.
Hi, M. Night. So you talked about things you love and being sentimental. Most of your movies are shot in and around Philly.
Yeah.
Is that why, or do you just think Philly's really creepy?
It's related to what we said. That's who I am, right? So that's what I have to offer. I love where I live. I live just outside Philadelphia, and it's a beautiful area. It's very Americana, and kind of dark Americana pieces, which is kind of what I'm doing. You know, they feel authentic to me. You know, they're a slice of what America was supposed to stand for, and as it disintegrates, or we tell a story of that where it's being challenged, it feels good to me to be that authentic. Again, you get inspired. Like if I drive by a crop field, and that's how I thought of science. Literally, there's crops of corn, or right near my house is the fence for the DuPont estate, which was Foxcatcher, the movie Foxcatcher. So that's where all that stuff happened, the murders and the insane asylum and all of that stuff was over the fence, but it was a rusted fence near my house. And then I thought of the village. You know, it's just things, the old architecture, all of those things, and of course the visit is, we have farms everywhere in Pennsylvania. I find them very beautiful and eerie and isolated. So, being as authentic as you can. So it's what I can offer. It's pretty cool to be an Indian filmmaker in Pennsylvania. That's pretty damn specific.
Talk about staying true to yourself, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, that is our time. Please give it up for M. Night Shyamalan and Jason Blum.
Thank you, guys. Please come. Any of you guys come to the screening tonight? We'd love to see you. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.